the Orange County Treasurer and Tax Collector, Sherry Friedenrich. The Treasurer has a very interesting background because it's not just in local government here in the county. Ms. Friedenrich was started.
Sherry is fine.
Okay, I will go with Sherry. Thank you, Sherry. She started she is a CPA, and she started with Deloitte Touche in the private sector, was primarily in the performed the auditing functions, and was also in the private sector with McDonnell Douglas for a period of years before she got into the public sector. She is the past president of the Association of Public Treasurers for the US and Canada. She's also a past president of the California Association of County Treasurers and Tax Collectors. Sherry oversees about a $10 billion investment pool. Just for those of you out there that are run small businesses, you think about dealing with $10 billion or $12 billion a year, about $1 billion a month. It's mind-boggling to think about those dollars and what she grapples with on an ongoing basis. Welcome to RIAOC, Sherry. We're so happy to have you here. And I want to start you with a question to take you back a few years to 1994. And in December of 1994, something occurred which affected all of us in Orange County, and that was the bankruptcy. And I just wanted to, before we get into today, I wanted to ask you, where were you at that time, and how did that affect your thinking about this county and county government? What was your take back then as to what impact that bankruptcy would have?
Thank you very much. Well, good morning to all of you and your members at RIAOC. I'm honored to be here today. Congratulations on your 53 years of success through cooperation. That's so exciting. And your affordable membership rate of $99. I did see that a lot of your members are from the industry that I specialize in, including the realtors, lenders, title, escrow, all of those property tax areas. So hopefully I'll be able to impart some good information to you today. My goal here at the county is to implement best business practices and really streamline government operations using common sense leadership. So your first question is actually very appropriate because it really tells how I became to be in a public servant and to work for each of you as your Orange County Treasurer. Back in 1992, my husband and I were on vacation. I was working for the McDonnell Douglas Travel Company at that time. And so I was traveling internationally for the company. And we opened the paper one day and the headline read, Orange County is the richest county in the nation. Some of you may remember that headline, maybe not, but it was there internationally. And then the next day we opened the same paper and the headline read, Orange County, richest county in the nation, files for bankruptcy. That was actually in 1994. I said 1992. How could I forget the year? 1994. And it was at that point I realized that government really needed competent fiscal leaders. And then in 1996, the Huntington Beach treasurer position came up. The treasurer resigned. They, of course, lost money in the pooled funds here at the county, like many other cities and agencies in and out of the county lost money. And so I talked with my friend John Morlock, who was a CPA, and he said, gosh, we need good CPAs in government, Sherry. You should consider applying. So I applied for the Huntington Beach position. And at that point, I was not well known in town because, of course, I'd worked in private industry and I wasn't really very involved in government. But I was subsequently appointed by the board, and then was there in Huntington Beach trying to fix processes, saved about $15 million for them. Then the county lost more money after the bankruptcy, which was $1.5 billion. They lost money in these structured investment vehicles. And so the treasurer at that time had been instrumental in increasing the portfolio of these. And they lost these dollars in the late 2000, I think it was 2008, 2009, the credit crisis there. And so my friend John Morlock again said, Sherry, I think you always were supposed to succeed me at the county as the county treasurer. Will you please run for office against this person who I had endorsed years ago, over you, not over me, but he had asked me to run to. And I said, you know, I'm very happy. And so I was very honored. I ran a grassroots campaign and I was elected as your treasurer in November of 2010. And since then, I have worked very hard to bring common sense to local government, and I have saved taxpayers almost $1 billion in these last 11 years. So that is my story. It is the bankruptcy is the only reason I'm probably here. Otherwise, I'd probably be, you know, working in private industry, maybe in the property area, because I had a lot of, I had Tishman, I had Segerstrom, I had a lot of property tax clients when I was at Deloitte.
It's interesting how historical events, you know, affect lives and lead us to the present, which in the present, and given Orange County, you know, a very, very important county and jurisdiction for the whole country. We're a very significant county, but can, I guess, based on what happened in 1994, could bankruptcy or some other financial crisis sneak up on us again? How solid is Orange County's financial base at this time? And is it resistant to those kinds of debt crises?
Well, a couple of things, good points. The Orange County bankruptcy was the largest municipal bankruptcy in the nation at that time, back in 1994. And the state took many, many steps of oversight to ensure that it would never happen again. Some of those included adding, requiring investment policy statements that then would reflect the code. They required significant oversight from Treasury oversight committees. They required audits from the auditor controller because they had not been realizing that the county had two sets of books apparently at that time. And I was not involved, as you had heard, so I don't have all of the details of the bankruptcy, but there have been significant oversight steps taken here in Orange County. We are very conservative in our investments. As if we do talk about what I invest in, I will talk a little bit about, you know, what our policy has here at the county, which is more restrictive than most, if not all, other counties. You know, it is one of those things. We lost money twice. We lost money in the bankruptcy, and then unfortunately we lost money in this structured investment vehicles, the SIVs. So, you know, we certainly don't want to even consider a third time. So
let me interrupt here. May I interrupt and ask, since you brought it up, and that was one of the things I was interested in, what are your parameters for investment with the pool of funds that you oversee? What are you allowed to invest in and not invest in?
Right. We have to follow state code. So state code basically identifies all the items that we invest in. I'm very restricted in those investments. We can only allow it in fixed income. I know when I was at the city of Huntington Beach, they kept thinking I could invest in equities. It's not. It's really fixed income or bond instruments that have a stated par value, no equities, and only out to 5 years.
What kind of returns do you expect now when you make such investments? Are we getting 1%, 2%? Are you able to stay ahead of the rate of inflation? You know, what kind of returns do you think we get in the county on those invested funds?
Right. Well, our objective is safety first, liquidity second, and lastly, yield. What got us into the bankruptcy is people needed yield to be able to support local government. So SLY is our motto, and yield is the least important. Safety and preservation of capital is very important. And as you know, when you take less risk, you are going to get less rewards from those. So for us, the monies that we have are really intended to pay payroll. They're intended to pay our vendors. There perhaps some monies that are a little longer, like we have landfills here in the county, so we need some reserve dollars, but most of those dollars are intended for current operating. So it's really working capital. And as you know, with any company that has working capital, that money is short, It's shorter, and it's going to reflect those current market rates. So when the Fed is at 0, we are still rolling down the curve. Our rate, I think last month was 0.60. I think the state pool was 0.22 because they had a shorter duration than we did. So we had a little longer duration going into COVID. And so we were able to now continue rolling down that curve. And obviously, if the Fed does not move rates, we would continue rolling down that curve with current market rates, which are very low.
Yeah. Well, and can you, we'll sort of back up more to step one now, which was one to ask, can you give us an overview of what your job is, and maybe this is like the 5th grade presentation for us here at RIAOC. So keep it simple. What does the county treasurer tax collector do day to day? What are your duties and responsibilities?
Well, Nick, there are really 2 main functions, exactly as you indicated. One is the treasurer function, and that is really the investment and safety of those public funds. I'm responsible for, on a daily basis, receiving in the funds, collecting those funds, depositing those funds, investing those funds, and safekeeping of those public funds. Secondly is the tax collector function. And of course, all of you probably here have some interaction with property. And essentially, my main function is the billing and collection of property taxes. So annually, we send out this year, in fact, next week, we expect to be issuing our fiscal year 2021-22 tax bills for secured property taxes. We're going to bill over $8 billion. We'll probably send over 850,000 bills out to all of the landowners, all the owners here in the county. So those are the 2 main functions. I also, I don't do assessment at all, so I'm not involved in the assessment value. It's really just the billing, which is sending out the bills, and the payment, the collection of those bills that I do. Now, I do sit on the OSER's pension plan, so I'm an ex officio on that, so I am a little bit involved, certainly in longer term investments, because that's what they do. Is we are there to make sure that we can provide the assets for the liabilities under any pensions that may be identified by the county or a few other cities that are part of the plan. And then I also sit on the Public Financing Advisory Committee, which was a committee that was established after the bankruptcy to make sure that if there is any debt the county goes into, it's looked at by the public. There's 5 public members on there. In addition, I'm a liaison to the Treasury Oversight Committee, which is a committee that I added several additional public members because it was a new committee created after the bankruptcy, but we only had bureaucrats on it. We need to have public members who can actually be helping with that oversight of the treasurer, which is one of the reasons I feel that certainly the county is in good shape in terms of not ever having to look that bankruptcy in the face ever again.
What is our bond rating as a county? Are we, in terms of what an S&P or a Fitch, where are we rated at present?
The county currently just had its AAA rating by Fitch reaffirmed. We received that rating before COVID, probably a year or 2. And the county has the lowest debt level of really all of our peer counties. We hardly have any debt. So we really do not issue very much debt at all. Most of the debt that is issued by the county is like Mello-Roos debt, which is for those developers or the infrastructure in the new communities that are going in. But of course, that is not debt that is really owned by the county. It's issued by the county, but it is to pay for those infrastructure requirements down in various locations in the county.
And as you collect property taxes, as those come in, and then there's I guess a redistribution in some way or payouts that go to Orange County cities. How does that compare? If you could give us some perspective in terms of that flow through and then reallocation to cities, how does that compare in Orange County, how we do that versus other counties in California?
Thank you again. Yes, very important because Prop 13, as you all probably know and are familiar with, obviously, which does limit the increase in the assessed value to a maximum of 2% per year, also identifies all of the allocation of property taxes throughout the state. And these allocation formulas were established back in 1978 when Prop 13 was there. Of course, the counties were a lot different then than they are now. I mean, we are the 5th largest county in the nation. Obviously, most of the large counties are our peers that are right here in Southern California. So we're located in that area was not very developed back then in some cases. So essentially for Orange County, because every county has a different proportion, we have about 62 cents of the property tax dollar going to fund schools. So those funds go to the state, and then the state through their school formula then funds the different schools throughout the state. We have 5% or 5 cents of that property tax dollar stays with the county. 1% goes to public libraries that are county libraries. 11% goes to special districts. These could be water districts. These could be the vector control, various districts that were in, that were in the loop and got part of the property tax money. 10% goes to successor redevelopment agencies, which is primarily to pay off their debt because those agencies were dissolved by the state several years ago. And then about 11% on average goes to cities. So essentially, we are what we call a donor county, because if you look at our 5 cents that we get for the county from the property tax, if you go over to LA County, they get 24 cents. They were, of course, much larger back in 1978 than Orange County. We were orange groves more of. So we had very low taxes. Sierra County in Northern California, a very small county, gets over 50%, 50 cents of the dollar that goes. And the city and county of San Francisco, I believe, gets almost 70 cents. So we get 5 cents of that property tax dollar to go to fund local government. And again, 62 cents goes to the schools. So other counties have a lot less. I mean, if San Francisco has, say, 70% going to them, then that means that their schools and their cities are getting a lot less funds. So if that gives you an overview of the property tax dollar, as I say, we are a donor county. The legislator has been trying to correct this because obviously it means we get less dollars. And again, we fund schools up in Northern California.
Okay. And I know you have certain tips you may pass on to property owners as to how to manage, I guess, their properties and the property taxes they pay. Do you have any suggestions or tips for property owners? And for, of course, our group here are dealing with commercial properties, and maybe there's distinctions between, homes and then commercial properties. What suggestions might you have?
My role is I work for the taxpayers. So what I do is try to implement things that I think are beneficial. And we've made some huge changes in our website over the past 10 years I've been there. I mean, we get regularly over 1 million hits a month to our website. So the website is a very important place for property tax owners to go. So our first tip really is our website is octreasure.com/OC tax bill. That gets you to the property tax pages and is very important for property tax owners. A couple of things. One is COVID, of course, affected all of us. The governor allowed us to put a program in place to waive penalty cancellations. These penalty cancellations were for homeowners or businesses, small businesses that were not able to pay timely. And there is still an opportunity to perhaps have a penalty canceled. So if you paid your base taxes by June 30th, 2021, and the penalties, and you were impacted by COVID, you can go online, fill out a penalty cancellation form and request those penalties be refunded to you. So that's one tip that you might be able to do if someone did pay property taxes, they weren't getting money in from their renters or their tenants. These are some opportunities that might be considered. And I did pass out to you, Nick, that kind of the top 10. So I'm going to focus on just a couple here. We have an online statement. So you can always go to that webpage and you can see exactly how much you owe. You can see the last 12 years of tax bills. So your CPAs love it, and their last 2 years of tax payments. If you do have any unsecured property, Those are also online. You can pull up those by your company name, and that is very helpful because businesses move a lot. In addition, I would recommend that you sign up for our email or text reminders to pay your taxes timely. We have reminders both for secured property taxes and unsecured property taxes. Property taxes secured are due November 1st and February 1st. And then there's a 40-day grace period, and the final payment day is December 10th and April 10th, probably dates that you guys all know. These reminders will remind you before those dates and before the last payment date. And it's a huge 10% penalty, just like a mortgage. So I would recommend that you sign up for either text or email reminders. In addition, if you're a property business with property tax payments of over 50,000, state law actually requires you to pay those electronically. And so we have a program to assist you in paying those electronically. And it's on our website, or you can email me at treasurer@ttc.ocgov.com. Of course, we want government to be efficient. So the most efficient way for us to get in payments is through our e-check program, which is free. We have almost 500,000 property tax owners that pay using the e-check. It's free. You get a receipt online. It gets emailed to you right after you make the payment. It's great. But also in these ACH payments, because you don't want me to spend a lot of money. You want the money to go toward providing benefits. You don't want money to go for just general government. So we try to be as lean and efficient as possible in all of our operations. So that's really kind of some of those tips. Nick, I think you have the handout. I've been honored to work and serve each of you guys these past 11 years. So I'm available, certainly, if if I know we're just about out of time, unless you want to continue, but I'm available for questions. Oh dear. You're on mute, I think, Nick.
You're muted.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I had some background noise here and I forgot I'm muted. Sherry, just wanted to, I guess, mention that if I'm not mistaken, you are running for treasurer again in the November 2022 election. Is that correct?
Yes, the next election is coming up in June. Actually, county officials are usually in the primary, not the general election. So the next election here is in June of 2022, just around the corner.
It's coming fast. And treasurer is a nonpartisan position. So do you expect to have on the ballot, is it expected to be a competitive race, or what is your
the first time I ran, I had 3 other people running against me, and then the last 2 times that I've run, I have been running unopposed. In fact, last time I was the only countywide official that did not have an opponent. So, you have to work hard. You never know. You can't take anything for granted. And obviously getting out and just educating people on their government is important to me. And I appreciate, again, the ability to come and speak to your members who I serve.
Sherry, I want to get your take, and I mentioned inflation earlier, and it's a hot topic, obviously, across the nation now. What are you anticipating as a rate of inflation? And if you have one locally for the county, or just nationwide, is that something you look at on an ongoing basis? And do you make decisions based on your assumptions about inflation?
Excellent question, Nick. Of course, interest rates really are a very key to our treasurer side of the operation, because we invest the $10 billion of public funds. So it does provide returns for the county. We certainly would like to have a return on investment of some type. Of course, it is our third objective, so we have to temper that with our safety and liquidity. We follow the Federal Reserve certainly very closely, the dots, everything, but we don't anticipate. I mean, we are here to pay the working capital dollars. So we are not forecasting that I'm going to hold off making investments until next month or the following month. We need to make sure we're taking care of the county's business today. Obviously, if it's a volatile day, there may be some ability for us to move some things, but certainly we are here in the market, every day trying to make sure that we're protecting those funds. The Fed has talked about having an inflation, of about 2%. Obviously that starts, if they do not hold rates down artificially, which is what they're doing, because if we have inflation and it hurts us, it hurts counties, It hurts government, it hurts seniors. Who it helps is borrowers, as you know, because borrowers get the advantage of having the low rates, but everyone's not a borrower. Everyone may have some money too. So we review them very closely. We follow them. We have an economic update, but in terms of planning our schedule, I mean, we don't plan it because we really don't know what they're going to do.
Do you think nationally, if you look at CPI, we've been running over 5%. The last number for CPI was 5.3%. Do you think we're in a higher inflation mode for now, or do you expect us to come back to this 2% level where we've been for 20, 30 years?
Right. Well, if you look at the items that are there, I mean, there are a lot of items that certainly were hit by the COVID supply. So some of those may be more temporary, but you know, when you issue all this debt, there's got to be some long-term pressure on inflation also. So it is harder to tell. I know they've talked about it being transitory. It certainly seems like some of them are more than transitory. And how long does that transitory imply? So, you know, for us, as I say, we are in the 5-year and less, so we are not as focused on that long term. We're more focused on those short-term interest rates. But it certainly is a concern that inflation will go up because, of course, it then makes borrowing more expensive. If the county does have to become a net borrower or borrow some money, it makes it more expensive. That means it's more expensive for you because everything we do is paid for by taxpayers. So a little bit on that, but again, that long-term inflation, we aren't as focused because we are in that short-term working capital cycle.
Well, and thank you for that input. And I'm going to conclude here, or get your take, if we can, on real estate and in the county. Part of the tax money coming in, or much of the tax money coming in, is a function, of course, of property taxes and then assessed values, which I know is a different department and not something you do. But what is your sense of the strength of the Orange County real estate market? And we're in the commercial side here at RIAOC. What's your outlook for real estate and the strength of our real estate here? As you probably know, commercial properties trade at very low cap rates in Orange County relative to other counties and other regions. Do you see that strong real estate marketplace continuing, or do you see vulnerabilities in it?
Well, thank you again for the question. You know, one of the items, my job as a tax collector, which I didn't mention, but I should, because it may be something that you might be interested in, your members, is we do hold an annual property tax auction for any properties that have been that have had one installment that's been delinquent for 5 years. I've been here 11 years. We have never sold more than, I think, 10 properties in 1 year. And most years we have very few, 2 or 3, maybe 4 properties that we have for auction. We just held our auction fairly recently. And we did have a few improved homes on it. I believe there might have been one commercial location. I know we had I think a gas station a couple years ago, but we really have very, very few properties that are sold through tax auction. Our collection rate here is, this last year was 99.3% in the year that we bill. Our record is 99.4%. It is one of the highest in the nation. So, you know, properties here are very, you know, the property values have been very strong. Obviously there's a supply shortage on the residential side. Obviously commercial is going through a lot of changes. Are people not going to commute in to a large building any longer, and what's happening? So I haven't followed the commercial space as much. I know on OSERS, we do invest in real estate, and we do have the industrial and the commercial and the various ones. So certainly at this point, it has been very strong. We've seen strong returns. We do have a lot of course, residential property here in Orange County that is driving a lot of that. You know, a lot of Prop 13, if you are not selling, you maintain those old assessed values. So we don't see those new values as much until the ownership changes. And there may be opportunities, if it's not 50% of the ownership changing, to actually, you know, not have that Prop 13 assess. So probably in the commercial space, I'm not as knowledgeable of those, certainly more on the residential side, which is what we see that have that cap of the 2%. This year, I believe that we're just under the 2% for our increase in assessed value. And I believe our forecast for the next several years is still to see in overall property taxes is to see, I think it's 3.5% is what we're forecasting for the next several years. So, you know, certainly, obviously the market took a hit yesterday. It looks at China, looks at some of their properties. So it is an unknown. And, but I do think Orange County, at least in the past, has been able to be stronger than many of the other counties here in the state. And we're all blessed to have all of you here, all of our great property owners, and thank all of you for paying those property taxes this last year. And if you didn't, certainly we have payment plans, we have other things, but we are the lender of last resort. We are not the place you want to go if you want to borrow money, because we charge 18%.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Avoid that, RIAOC
Yes.
members. And then I know I said last question, but I'll, inject one last thought from you, I hope. And that is there's talk of, there's indications of migration out of California in particular, but I guess to a certain extent, Orange County. Is it a concern? Is the county going to, lose some of its tax base? And then in terms of commercial property owners and businesses that are here, does it worry you at all that people and companies may want to leave our county to go elsewhere? Maybe it's, lower cost locations. Is that something that the county is concerned about at all?
Of course, the county is, responsible for, its citizens that are all here. So anything that affects the citizens, the businesses is very important. I think California as a state lost in the census a seat in the legislature. So they are we obviously, the census tells us that we've lost people. I have lots of CPA friends who are telling me that their high wealth clients are moving out of the state because they have the ability to move out. They may have a place here for 5 months and 29 days, but that means they're still spending 6 months and 1 day somewhere else. I have, friends and, family and that are younger that are not able to afford some of the house prices. I mean, our median home price is phenomenal. I mean, it's very challenging for a person coming out to do that. So certainly net migration or net, immigration is always important. We are here to take care of the citizens. And of course, because 94% of our general discretionary funds are based on property taxes, those property tax values are very important. I know when the board sets policies, our board of supervisors, they are focused on, looking after our taxpayers here. And obviously housing is a very big part of that, because if housing were to go down, that would have a big impact on those discretionary dollars. Now, over the last, I think 30 or 40 years, property tax increases have only gone negative. That's below 0% 4 times. So property tax has been very stable. Obviously, there have been ups and downs on it. There's been the credit crisis back in the 2008, 2009. So if that answers, we obviously are very focused on trying to do those. I don't set that policy, but certainly the county is. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, personally, I always say, and I still believe that Orange County, pound for pound, is as strong a region and a county as there is in the United States. And so thanks to our local government for helping us maintain that position. Thanks to you, Treasurer, Tax Collector Friedenrich, for being with us today and for helping to manage this great county. We really appreciate your participation and for sharing a wealth of knowledge with us this morning. Thank you. Good luck in your campaign next year. And hopefully you'll come back and visit with us again.
I would love to. I'm honored again to continue to serve you. I'm going to keep that money safe and look for that property tax bill next month. You can find it online as soon as it's mailed. So do that. And then one last tip, if you are a small business or a business and you have under 7,500 In equipment, we just exempted from it used to be 3,000, we went to 7,500. We're planning on exempting up to 10,000 to really help our small businesses this next year. So you have my contact information. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions. I work for each of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. And with that, let's swing. And thank you for staying late, by the way. We appreciate you holding over here for about 12 minutes to 9:42. And on that note, let's go back to John Hardowitz and Mel and continue this meeting, or I guess we're about to wrap it up, actually. John?
Okay.
And Mel.
Great job, Nick and Sherry. Thanks a lot. Great presentation. Really appreciate you doing that.
Okay, so